Most people think muscle loss is something that only happens when you stop exercising or when you hit your 70S. But the truth is, muscle atrophy, the slow, quiet erosion of lean tissue, begins much earlier, and it happens nightly if the right biological signals aren't in place. Here's a surprising fact. According to studies published in the Journal of Clinical Endocrinology and Metabolism, we begin losing muscle mass as early as our 30s. And by age 50, we can lose up to 1-2% of muscle each year, even if we're reasonably active. The technical name for this decline is sarcopenia. But what most people don't realize is that this process isn't just driven by aging. It's strongly influenced by what you do before you sleep, because sleep is when your body repairs and rebuilds muscle, but only if you've given it the raw materials to do so. Here's the key. Your body doesn't grow muscle in the gym. It grows it while you're sleeping. And if the right nutrients aren't present, particularly certain amino acids and signaling compounds, your body can actually shift into a catabolic state, breaking down more muscle than it builds. In other words, what you don't eat before bed might be costing you strength, energy, and metabolic health, even if you're training hard during the day. So in this episode, we're going to cover the surprising neuroscience of muscle signaling during sleep, the one amino acid that flips your muscle building switch and when to take it, what happens in your brain when you sleep without sufficient protein intake, the common bedtime foods that can silently sabotage muscle repair, how to use food timing and specific supplements to reverse muscle loss, and 4 scientifically supported nighttime nutrition tools to protect your muscle mass, support better sleep, and help you age with power, not fragility. This isn't about bodybuilders. This is about everyone, because muscle mass isn't just for aesthetics. It protects your brain, stabilizes mood, regulates blood sugar, and extends lifespan. A 2021 meta-analysis in the British Journal of Sports Medicine found that people with higher levels of muscular strength had significantly lower risk of all-cause mortality, regardless of age. And here's the good news. With a few small, scientifically grounded shifts in what you take before bed, whether it's a specific food, a timing adjustment, or a targeted supplement, you can begin to rewire your biology to build muscle while you sleep instead of losing it. Let's break it down. Your brain controls muscle growth, even while you sleep. We often think of muscle as something local, like if you want to grow your biceps, you train your biceps. But in reality, muscle growth is orchestrated by the brain, specifically by the neuroendocrine system, a tightly regulated feedback loop between your brain and hormones governed by your hypothalamus, pituitary gland, and circadian rhythms. Here's what the research shows. Your hypothalamus, the command center deep in the brain, helps regulate sleep-wake cycles, feeding behavior, and hormone secretion. Around 30-60 minutes after you fall asleep, your brain triggers a growth hormone pulse, the largest you'll experience in a 24-hour period. This surge is critical. Growth hormone doesn't just make kids taller. In adults, it drives tissue repair, muscle protein synthesis, fat metabolism, and even supports the immune system. But here's the catch. For this growth hormone to have a meaningful effect on muscle, your body must have sufficient amino acids in the bloodstream at that time. Think of it like a construction crew arriving at a building site overnight. The crew shows up, but if there are no materials like bricks or wood, no progress happens. Worse, the crew might start breaking down old parts of the building to reuse. That's what happens when the brain initiates muscle repair without the right substrates in place. A 2009 study published in Sleep found that subjects with inadequate protein intake prior to bed experienced elevated cortisol and increased overnight muscle protein breakdown compared to those who consumed a slow digesting protein. The science is clear. Without the right pre-sleep fuel, your brain's nightly muscle repair orders go unfulfilled, Now, here's what's happening at the neural level. The hypothalamus, which integrates both nutrient status and circadian timing, sends signals to the anterior pituitary, triggering secretion of growth hormone into the bloodstream. That signal only becomes anabolic if insulin levels are low to moderate and if amino acid levels, especially leucine, valine, and isoleucine, are elevated. This is why fasted sleep, while it may work for fat loss, under specific protocols, is not ideal for muscle retention, especially in older adults. In fact, age declines in growth hormone make this even more important. After age 40, your brain produces less GH during sleep, so the nutritional signals you provide become even more critical. Let me ask you something. Have you ever trained hard, eaten well during the day, and still felt like your physique wasn't changing? Like you were plateauing or even regressing despite doing everything right? It's possible the missing piece isn't what you're doing during the day, it's what your brain is trying to do at night and not succeeding at because you haven't supplied the materials. So here's a simple tool to apply. Don't go to bed on an empty stomach. Instead, consume a balanced, protein-rich meal or shake 30-60 minutes before sleep, preferably with slow-digesting proteins like casein or Greek yogurt, and at least 2.53 grams of leucine to support the anabolic signaling your brain initiates during deep sleep. When you do this consistently, your brain and muscles are no longer working against each other. They're in sync. You're aligning your evening habits with your neurobiology. And that's when real recovery, real growth, and real strength building begins. Casein protein, the slow drip fuel that feeds muscle overnight. Let's talk about casein, a specific type of protein found in dairy. Unlike whey, which digests rapidly and spikes amino acid levels for just a few hours, casein digests slowly, releasing a steady stream of amino acids into your bloodstream for up to 7 hours. That makes it an ideal candidate for overnight muscle protection. Here's what the research shows. A 2012 study published in Medicine and Science in Sports and Exercise gave resistance-trained men 40 grams of casein about 30 minutes before sleep. The results? Compared to a control group, the men who took casein experienced increased overnight muscle protein synthesis even while they slept. And this wasn't just a one-off result. A 2015 meta-analysis in Frontiers in Nutrition concluded that pre-sleep protein consumption, especially slow digesting proteins like casein, can improve muscle mass, strength, and performance, particularly when paired with regular resistance training. So why does this matter? Because nighttime is a long fast. If you go to bed at 10 p.m. and wake at 6 a.m., that's 8 hours with no nutrient intake. Without a slow release protein source, your body eventually shifts from an anabolic state, muscle building, to a catabolic state, muscle breakdown. You begin to use amino acids from your own muscle tissue to fuel basic metabolic processes. Think of casein as a time-release supplement. It acts like a slow IV drip of amino acids, maintaining positive nitrogen balance and giving your body the fuel it needs to repair, rebuild, and grow muscle through the night, precisely when growth hormone is peaking. Here's how you can use it. Protocol. Take 30-40 grams of micellar casein protein about 30-60 minutes before bed. Best forms, casein protein powder, low-fat cottage cheese, or plain Greek yogurt. Optional add-ins. Add a tablespoon of nut butter or a small banana if you want a more balanced pre-sleep meal that also supports serotonin production and sleep depth. What's critical here is timing and form. Casein works best when taken just before sleep, not an hour or two before. That way its digestion aligns with your body's natural sleep cycles and hormonal rhythms. You might be wondering, do I need this if I'm already hitting my daily protein target? And the answer is, if you're trying to build or preserve lean mass, especially as you age, timing matters just as much as quantity. A study in Nutrients 2020 showed that distributing protein evenly throughout the day, including before bed, enhanced net muscle protein accretion more effectively than front-loading it earlier in the day. So if you're someone who trains hard, eats well, but wakes up feeling flat or sore, or if you're over 35 and want to prevent age muscle loss, this one adjustment could be a game changer. And if this kind of insight is helping you optimize how your brain and body work together, consider subscribing. We dig deep into science-backed tools every week to help you live with more strength, focus, and clarity. The one muscle building signal, leucine, and why timing it matters. If there's one molecule that could be considered the on switch for muscle growth, it's this, leucine. Leucine is one of the 3 branched chain amino acids, FBCAAs, but unlike isoleucine and valine, leucine is the primary activator of mTOR, the master regulatory pathway that controls muscle protein synthesis. Without sufficient leucine, even if you've consumed enough total protein, your body may not trigger the cascade needed to build or preserve muscle. Here's what the research shows. A landmark study in the American Journal of Clinical Nutrition, 2006, found that consuming at least 2.5 grams of leucine per meal was necessary to maximally stimulate muscle protein synthesis in healthy adults. Below that threshold, the signal weakens, especially in older adults who experience anabolic resistance, meaning their muscles are less responsive to protein intake. Now let's connect this to bedtime. When you sleep, your insulin levels are low, which is actually a good thing. Insulin inhibits fat burning, so low insulin allows your body to mobilize fat as fuel. However, low insulin also means that your body depends more heavily on amino acids for repair processes, especially if you're under stress, fasting, or recovering from training. This is where leucine timing matters most. If you ingest enough leucine before bed, you provide a strong, sustained anabolic signal through the night, one that aligns with your brain's natural growth hormone surge and supports tissue repair. Without it, your body may break down existing muscle to meet its needs. Here's what's happening mechanistically. Leucine binds to a specific nutrient sensor in the cell called cestrin-2, which activates mTORC1, initiating protein synthesis. The signal is time sensitive. During sleep, your body is highly receptive to repair inputs, but only if they're present at the right moment. Miss that window and the anabolic machinery stays idle. Think of leucine as a key and your muscle building machinery as a lock. If you don't insert the key before you fall asleep, the lock stays shut. So, what's the practical takeaway? Tool to apply. Whether you're using a casein shake, Greek yogurt, or another nighttime snack, ensure it delivers at least 2.5 grams of leucine. That typically means 30, 40 grams of high quality protein, whey, casein, or a complete plant-based blend. Alternatively, you can supplement leucine directly using 5 grams of low leucine powder added to your evening shake or smoothie. And if you're older, say over 40, that threshold increases slightly. Research suggests that older adults may need closer to 3.5 grams of leucine in a single dose to trigger the same anabolic response seen in younger individuals. You may be thinking, but if I already take BCAAs, isn't that enough? Not necessarily. Most BCAA supplements don't provide leucine in the quantity needed to stimulate mTOR effectively, unless the formula is heavily leucine skewed. And that's why targeted leucine intake or full spectrum protein sources with known leucine content is more effective. What's empowering here is that you don't need to overhaul your entire diet. You just need to make sure your brain and muscles are getting the right signal at the right time. And that signal is leucine, delivered strategically to align with the hormonal and neural rhythms of sleep. By making this simple adjustment, you're not just eating smarter, you're speaking the language your biology understands. And when you do that consistently, everything begins to shift. Recovery, performance, mood, even motivation. Why carbs at night might help, not hurt. If done right, for years we were told not to eat carbs at night, that they'd turn straight into fat or shut down fat burning. But neuroscience and metabolic physiology tell a different story. Under the right conditions, Strategic carbohydrate intake before bed can actually support muscle growth, improve sleep quality, and lower nighttime cortisol. Here's what the research shows. A 2011 study in obesity found that subjects who ate the bulk of their carbohydrates at dinner experienced greater fat loss, reduced hunger hormones like ghrelin, and improved sleep patterns compared to those who front-loaded carbs earlier in the day. Why? Because nighttime carbs do three powerful things. They increase serotonin and melatonin production. Carbohydrates increase the availability of tryptophan in the brain, the amino acid precursor to serotonin, which then converts to melatonin, your body's sleep-inducing hormone. This makes it easier to fall asleep faster, experience deeper slow-wave sleep, and stay asleep longer, all of which are critical for recovery and muscle repair. They lower cortisol levels. Cortisol, your primary stress hormone, peaks in the early morning, but if it's elevated at night, it disrupts sleep architecture, increases muscle breakdown, and blocks the action of growth hormone. Carbohydrates stimulate insulin, which helps blunt cortisol and calm the nervous system before bed. They restore glycogen for overnight muscle recovery. Your muscles repair during sleep, but they need fuel to do it. Carbohydrates replenish glycogen, stored glucose in your muscles, which acts as the energy source for nighttime repair processes. If your glycogen stores are too low, your body may catabolize amino acids from muscle tissue for fuel. So the question becomes, what kind of carbs and how much? Tool to apply. Use low glycemic, fiber-rich carbohydrates in your evening meal. These provide a slow, steady release of glucose and support both hormonal balance and digestive stability. Good options include sweet potatoes, steel-cut oats, quinoa, berries, a banana with protein, legumes or lentils. Aim for 25 grams of carbs paired with 25 grams of protein, ideally casein-based. About 60-90 minutes before bed. Here's an example bedtime combo. 1 cup low-fat Greek yogurt, 1/2 banana or 1/4 cup oats, 1 tablespoon almond butter, sprinkle of cinnamon, which helps regulate blood sugar. This combination hits all the right switches. Protein for muscle synthesis, carbs for serotonin and melatonin, healthy fat for satiety, and micronutrients to support metabolic recovery. You might be wondering, but won't this spike insulin and blunt growth hormone? That's a fair concern, but it turns out moderate insulin elevations don't block growth hormone. In fact, a 1999 study in the Journal of Clinical Endocrinology and Metabolism showed that co-ingestion of carbs with protein at night did not impair the normal growth hormone pulse during sleep, especially when total caloric load was moderate. So the key is balance, not a massive high sugar feast, but a targeted nutrient-dense snack that works with your body's hormonal rhythms. And if you're enjoying these deep dives into the science of sleep, recovery, and performance, don't forget to like the video and subscribe to the channel. We're building a community of people who want to think better, feel better, and perform at their best. And it starts with science you can actually use. The hormonal danger of going to bed fasted, especially after 40. There's a silent mistake many well-meaning people make when trying to stay lean or boost fat burning. They go to bed fasted. No carbs, no protein, maybe a cup of herbal tea, and nothing else. Now, fasting can be a powerful tool when used wisely, but going to bed chronically underfed, especially in your 40s, 50s, and beyond, comes with a serious hormonal cost. It signals to your body that it's under threat, triggering muscle breakdown and disrupting your deep sleep cycles. Let's look at the physiology. When you sleep in a caloric or amino acid deficit, your body increases production of cortisol and adrenaline during the early morning hours, especially between 2 and 5 a.m. That's your body's way of mobilizing energy reserves. It raises your heart rate, disrupts sleep, and crucially, it can trigger gluconeogenesis, the breakdown of muscle tissue to create glucose. Here's what the research shows. A study in the Journal of Clinical Endocrinology and Metabolism, 2001, found that even a single night of fasting before sleep increased nocturnal cortisol levels and reduced REM sleep. And over time, these repeated stress responses blunt your body's sensitivity to insulin, impair muscle repair, and leave you feeling more anxious or inflamed the next day. Now add age into the equation. After the age of 35-40, you naturally begin to experience sarcopenia, age muscle loss. Unless you actively work against it with targeted resistance training and nutrient timing, you can lose 3 to 5% of muscle mass per decade. And the number one accelerator of that loss? Poor recovery nutrition. Without enough protein, especially slow digesting leucine-rich protein, and without glycogen restoration from modest carbohydrate intake, your body lacks the raw materials to preserve lean tissue overnight. It's like trying to rebuild a house without bricks. And remember, muscle is not just aesthetic, it's metabolic. It improves blood sugar control, bone density, mitochondrial health, and even mental clarity. So what's the fix? Tool to apply. Avoid going to bed completely fasted, especially if you've trained that day, you're over 35, you're feeling run down, stressed, or sleep deprived. Instead, use a repair signal meal 30 and 90 minutes before bed, 30-40 G protein, preferably casein or a blend with leucine, 20-40 G carbs to reduce cortisol and support serotonin, optional magnesium-rich foods like pumpkin seeds, dark chocolate, or spinach to relax the nervous system and promote sleep onset. Ask yourself, am I feeding my body to grow and recover, or am I unknowingly signaling it to shrink and defend? Going to bed fasted when your muscles are in need is like expecting your phone to recharge, but not plugging it in. You wake up drained, not restored. What this all comes down to is alignment, aligning your nutrition with your neurology. And when you do that consistently, even subtle tweaks like a small protein carb meal before bed can yield profound shifts in energy, strength, body composition, and emotional resilience. The ideal bedtime meal blueprint: what and when to eat for maximum overnight recovery. By now, we've established a clear biological reality. What you eat before bed can either help you rebuild muscle and sleep deeply, or accelerate muscle loss and stress. But most people are left guessing. What should I actually eat? When and how much? So in this section, we'll build a practical blueprint grounded in research for designing your ideal bedtime recovery meal. Let's start with the 3 essential ingredients. 1, protein, 30 to 40 grams with tilde-3 leucine. This is your repair material, the foundation of muscle protein synthesis during sleep. You need a complete, slow digesting protein that will release amino acids gradually over 6-8 hours. Best options: micellar casein powder, the gold standard, low-fat Greek yogurt, cottage cheese, blended shakes, whey plus casein, or plant-based blends with pea, hemp, or rice protein. Remember, casein forms a gel in the stomach, slowing digestion and creating a steady amino acid drip that supports overnight tissue repair, exactly when your growth hormone pulses are most active. 2, carbohydrates, 20 to 40 grams, low to moderate glycemic. Carbs before bed can feel counterintuitive, but when they're used wisely, they enhance sleep and amplify muscle recovery. Why? As we discussed, carbs increase tryptophan availability, more serotonin, more melatonin, lower evening cortisol, replenish muscle glycogen so your body doesn't catabolize muscle tissue. Best options: berries, banana, or kiwi. Sweet potatoes or oatmeal, chickpeas or lentils, a slice of whole grain toast with nut butter. Bonus: kiwis have been shown in sleep studies, kiwis have been shown in sleep studies, Lin et al., Asia, Pac, J, Clin, Neutral, 2011, to improve sleep onset and duration when consumed an hour before bed. 3, micronutrient and nervous system support. This is the sleep switch layer. You can enhance your recovery meal with ingredients that calm the nervous system and deepen sleep architecture. Add-ons to consider: magnesium, pumpkin seeds, dark chocolate, spinach, tryptophan-rich foods, turkey, dairy, oats, glycine found in collagen or bone broth, shown in Yam Adera et al. 2007 to improve sleep quality when taken before bed. Timing matters. Eat this 39 minutes before bed, depending on your digestion speed and comfort. If you're training in the evening, aim for the 60-90 minute mark. If not, a smaller meal 30-45 minutes before sleep works well. Here's a full bedtime recovery meal example: sleep and repair bowl. 3/4 cup low-fat Greek yogurt, 1 TSP almond butter, 1/2 sliced banana or 1/2 cup berries, 2 TSP chia seeds, fiber plus omega-3s, dash of cinnamon plus pinch of salt. Optional 5G collagen plus magnesium citrate on the side. That's Tealed 35G protein, Tealed 35G carbs, healthy fats, and sleep-supporting minerals, all in one bowl. Easy, effective, and science-backed. Now, you might be wondering, isn't this too much to eat right before sleep? The key here is portion, timing, and macronutrient balance. This isn't a feast. It's fueling the repair mode your brain and body are entering anyway. When aligned correctly, it actually promotes better digestion, deeper sleep, and more consistent muscle maintenance. What's happening in your brain when you do this is powerful. Melatonin rises naturally. Cortisol quiets. The vagus nerve activates rest and digest mode. Muscle protein synthesis stays switched on through the night, all from a simple 10-minute nighttime habit. This isn't about chasing perfection. It's about training your biology to work for you, not against you.